Great. Thanks, Dan. So could you turn to the next slide, please?
Yes.
Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. My name is Hong Yang. I'm the program director, also the Alcott Chair Professor in Chemical Engineering. And today I join with my colleagues and Jim Morris, who is the Program Advisory Board Chair, and also the M.Eng Professional Development Instructor. And he's also the former Chief Facility Engineer for ExxonMobil Upstreams. And together with Professor Jonathan Hagan, who is the curricular chair for this MEng program, as well as Dennis Kathy Houston Professor in Chemical Engineering. And finally, Hong Jun Kong, who is the admission chair, and also the Robert Sheffer Professor in Chemical Engineering. So we're very delighted to have you join us tonight or this morning, depending on where you are. And to give you some insight of this program, how we started, and what is the content, what the design of this program, as well as the application, briefly application procedure, how we evaluate the applications. And we'll give you a break in the middle of this webinars, so you can ask some questions before we continue for the second part. So please do type in the question to Q&A or to the chat channel, so we'll be able to answer your question from those places, or you can raise your hands during the break in the middle or towards the end of these webinars. So without further ado, let me pass my baton to Professor John Hagan, who will get to some of the grainy details and the ins and outs of these programs. John, please.
Thank you very much, Hong. Dan, next slide. Okay, so we'll start with why did we start this program? What do we think makes this program unique? And what sort of university are you talking about getting affiliated with? First, I want to just mention some of the qualifications of the University of Illinois. We have just an outstanding group of faculty over the years. As noted there have been 24 Nobel laureates, a number of Pulitzer Prize winners. So great people in science, great people in communications. The Granger College of Engineering is one of the best colleges of engineering in the country, with just a large number of top 10 departments. Number 6 rated in undergraduate studies, graduate 12. And then also a third major part is our Gies College of Business, because this is rated in the top 10 among business schools at public universities in the United States. But most importantly, the Gies School has extreme experience in terms of delivering programs like MBAs or leadership programs or other things associated with business, especially with a significant online component. And so part of the goals that we have is to combine with them. And so basically, looking at the three circles there, we say that, yes, we want to teach you about leadership. We want to teach you firm engineering skills, but we also want to teach you skills about management and how you can make a best contribution eventually to your company. And so this is not at all like an MBA. We're not trying to teach you business skills that you would immediately join the business ladder in your company. This is not a pure science and engineering technical degree to make you a more effective person, strictly speaking, in that laboratory setting. But we're trying to teach you the combination of skills which will leverage all of your abilities to have the greatest impact on your company. And the guidance of how we went about developing this degree was by soliciting enormous amount of input from both personal observation. I personally had 10 years of consulting with ExxonMobil with a minimum of 2 months per year for 10 years. And we also relied heavily on Jim Morris, who's had 30 years of experience, and Jim was instrumental in taking input from all sorts of alumni and business leaders. And so we asked, how can we create a program which will teach students the best skills they need to highly leverage their other skills and have the greatest impact in their company? And that's what we think we've accomplished. So next slide, I think. So couple of quick facts right off the top, because a lot of times people ask questions about this. Many of you will have already read about it on the website. But let me hit these quick facts. First, we designed this program for two distinct audiences with separate subsections in each audience. We wanted to allow somebody to do this in person, to come to the University of Illinois, to be a full-time student, and to say, oh, I want to do a short, intensive program which combines these skills you were talking about. If you want to come in person and be a full-time student, you can finish this degree in as little as 3 semesters time. It's going to be intense, but it's possible to finish it in those 3 semesters. On the other hand, in our large discussions, we said, hey, there are a lot of people who are currently working in industry. They have a full-time job as an engineer or related as a chemical engineer or related area. They said, I love my job. I want to continue my job, but I want to have greater impact or get more responsibility or be in charge of more important things. And therefore, we designed this program so it works online and part-time. You could continue to work at your same company, working a 40-hour week, and work in this degree without having to have it completely take over your life. If you want to work full-time and keep your full-time job working 40 hours a week, you would probably take this in a part-time program and stretch it out to either 4 or 5, or even if you wanted to, 6 semesters, but more likely perhaps 4 or 5 semesters. Cost. The cost for the degree, the costs we list up there are not per year, but for the entire degree. If you are a resident of the state of Illinois, the approximate cost is of the order of $35,000. And the reason that number is much smaller than the others is the people then of the state of Illinois highly subsidize our university. And because they are highly subsidizing our university, they give a subsidy for University of Illinois residents. If an international student or even an out-of-state student, if you're from Michigan, your cost would be closer to $55,000. If you're an international student, it would be approximately $56,000. For anyone who's working for a company, we advise them to talk to their HR departments, because in many cases, HR departments will support coverage of some graduate level education for their permanent employees. And we certainly have students currently in the program where that is the case. There's also going to be an option for a second concentration, entrepreneurship and innovation, but I think I'm going to let Hong Yang talk about that a little bit later. So those are the quick facts which most people immediately want to know about. Why I should have come here, how much does it cost, what it will take. And then next, I think we can move on to the next slide, Dan. And this is the basic slide which tells you what we think was our motivation in designing this program and what the 3 pieces are. The first is our curriculum. Curriculum means those things which you're going to learn mostly in taking classes on campus or online. And the basic parts of the curriculum, the core of the curriculum, is a set of 3 courses on chemical engineering. I'm going to go through a very specific list on the next slide, but for a moment, I want to focus on, it's going to be core chemical engineering skills, much as you'd see if you were taking a standard Masters of Science in chemical engineering. There's an opportunity to take a variety of different electives, which I'll talk about also on the next slide. But there's also courses that you'll take from the Gies College of Business and from our chemical engineering program to help you build leadership skills. What does it take to be a good leader? What does it take to have good teamwork? Because you can pretty much guarantee almost any job that you're working in industry, you're going to be a part of a team. There's very few jobs where just one person does the entire job. And so we want to show you that experience shows the difference between really well-functioning teams with good leadership and poorly managed teams is just immense, and the consequences for the company are immense as well. And so those are the things that we talked about for curriculum. Business skills from the Gies College of Business, leadership skills, management skills, and then also this idea of technical skills. Next, we're going to have the second part is that after you've learned a lot of those in coursework settings, it's the idea of integrating. And integrating that knowledge means how do you take your knowledge and apply it to given problems? We have a collection of workshop courses, which are going to be managed by Jim Morris. And I'm going to let Jim tell you more about those. But the basic idea is you'll get together, you'll come together with a group, you'll do some number of hours of preliminary work before the workshop to prepare you for it. And it'll be interacting with other members of our MEng's program, with key alumni or business leaders, and you'll be interacting with people who have been managers in industry and know how to get the most out of the teams that work for their companies, and they will try to teach you the critical skills that you need to be a most effective team member and to be a good team leader. And it won't just be sitting in the room with lectures, it's going to be interactive. There'll be small groups to get together. You're going to be pressed to make suggestions. There are going to be all sorts of sample things. Jim Morris will tell us more about that in a moment. So first it's learning, then it's integrating your knowledge with attacking various problems. And then Jim Morris will also tell you more about the so-called Capstone project, which in the last semester, basically, probably the last semester of the degree program, you will have an opportunity to work on. It could be an internship with a given company. It could be a capstone project where it's suggested by your own company, or it could be one that we will solicit from companies and we will assign to you. Jim will tell you more about that. So next slide, we'll go on the formal degree requirements. I think, there we go. So this shows you the formal degree requirements. The engineering technical core is a set of 3 4-hour courses. The first course is ChME 521, is an applied math course. Basically, this is teaching you what we believe is the fundamental basic knowledge of applied mathematics that all chemical engineers should have. That is also the mathematics that you need to have under your belt in order to move to the next 2 core courses, a graduate transport course, heat, mass, momentum, transport, fluid mechanics, diffusion processes, diffusion with reaction, and a graduate course in reaction engineering. And again, we're hoping to teach you the critical skills. So if you're asked in your company to analyze some given problem, you have the base. This is not just reading some formula out of a handbook. This is developing the engineering skill set to figure out how to start a problem completely from scratch and figure out what is important in terms of an engineering analysis of that problem. Next area is our business and leadership core. The first 2 courses listed there, Business Admin 508 and Accounting 503, teach you both financial and leadership skills. And again, the Gies College of Business is just terrific. They've had a long history of knowing how to deliver these materials. They teach similar courses to this as part of their MBA programs, but we consulted with them at great length, and they say these are we told them what our goals were, and they gave us sufficient feedback that through the discussion we identified those as the 2 most important courses. The ChME 594 Engineering Leadership, that is the course number for the workshops that Jim Morris is going to tell you more detail. Each workshop is worth 1 hour credit for approximately 48 hours of work in a semester. And Jim's going to tell you that there are 2 separate workshops that you would go through for that ChME 594. The professional development core is this practicum or capstone. This is the project where you're going to be working on the project yourself with interaction with a mentor in our program, but you will have main responsibility for coming up with a process for solving that. Next, we have our technical management and leadership electives. Here's where we offer you some choice. You could just take 2 technical electives. Suppose you were interested very much in computing. You might take an elective on computer numerical methods to solve computing problems. Maybe you take an elective in data science. Maybe you take other electives in advanced statistics. Or you might take additional courses in management or additional electives in leadership skills taught perhaps by engineering faculty. We have a very strong leadership and entrepreneurship program here at University of Illinois. Hong will talk more about that. So there's that. Finally, that's those top 4 blocks are our degree requirements. Finally, I want to mention, if a student is coming into our programs from, say, either mechanical engineering or is an undergraduate chemist, he or she may need to take some undergraduate chemical engineering courses. There's 3 listed down there at the bottom. These are undergraduate courses. If you're a chemist, we would certainly require you to take all 3 courses. If you're, say, a mechanical engineer, you might not need momentum and heat transfer, but you might need the mass transfer chemical reaction engineering. One thing is, if you're coming from any university in a major city, if you have any university in your city which offers a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, it is likely that you could take substitutes for some of those undergraduate courses before you arrived at Illinois for our program. That's something we could work with each individual student on along the way. So I think that hits the high points and gives you most of the critical information. I think the last thing I want to talk about is the online focus, I believe. There we go. And so this is just a brief slide to emphasize that we do everything possible to make this flexible for students. So again, it can be completed full-time. You can come to the University of Illinois, be on campus, do a full-time degree, taking it in as little as 3 semesters to finish the MEng degree. Or you can come and take it part-time, and you can be either in residence or working in a company. We have students, say, up in Chicago. You might have a student in Illinois or Indianapolis, St. Louis, I'm trying to say, anywhere, and it might be that you're going to take part-time. That's perfectly fine. The online segment, those 3 core courses, we talked back and forth because we had a lot of experience with online during COVID. And we found that for people who are working a 40-hour job, if there's an average of 2 classes per week, say a 3-hour class might be 2 90-minute classes per week. If we did that in the evening with a live Zoom meeting, then 2 days of your week, every single week, are constrained by that course. We found that it was better, more flexible. So for those 3 core courses, they're all available as online pre-recorded lectures with additional with additional live synchronous Zoom meetings, so you can ask questions of an instructor or TA. But we found that by offering them as pre-recorded lectures, you can view them anytime you want, night or day. You can, if you've got a very busy week at the company given week, you can just skip everything for a week and then come back and get caught up. Of course, when you're watching a pre-recorded lecture, there's a wonderful thing called a pause button. If we're going too fast or covering too much material, you can pause and come back to it later. So that is something which, when we talked about the online content, we really made sure to make it the most flexible so that someone who is indeed working a 40-hour-a-week job can indeed arrange what time they're going to spend on this particular course. Tuition, you should not be concerned. Those numbers I gave, $35,000 for Illinois residents, 55 or 56,000 for international or out-of-state students. Those numbers change very little, perhaps most $1,000, $1,500, whether you take it part-time or full-time. The tuition is basically charged on the number of credit hours, and so it varies very little. So you say, oh, would it cost me much more if I stretched it out over 4 or 5 semesters? No, within $1,000 or so, it's all going to be the same number. So you can optimize based on your schedule and not worry about incurring a major tuition charge. There's some extra little fees that are charged, but those are folded into the basic number I gave. Again, don't quote me on a dollar figure at this point. I trust those estimates of 35,000 for in-state and 55 or 56 for out-of-state or international. They're going to be within $1,000, $1,500 of your true cost. So, more detail is available at the registrar's office. So, with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Jim Morris. I believe he's next up. Dan, next slide.
All right, thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, John did a really good job of taking you through the overall curriculum and all the different skills that you're going to learn. And if you remember the roadmap, we talked about the learn step. That's what John just covered. I'm going to talk a little bit now about the second step, which was the integrate. What do we mean by integrate? Well, integrate basically means that you take all the skills that you've learned, take all the skills that you've acquired, and you integrate them in a way that you can solve high value problems. It's easy to say, but rather difficult to do. So what we want to do in this part of the program is it's going to center around 2 workshops that we're going to have. The idea is to take some of the things you've learned to begin to see what does it look like in the context of the types of problems and industries that we as chemical engineers serve. We'll have 2 workshops. One will be following or based on the leadership course that you'll take from the Gies College of Business. And the second one will be on business value and decision making, which will follow up and be based on some of the things that you're going to learn in the managerial accounting course from the College of Business. I really don't like to name the managerial accounting course. Think of it more in terms of what business knowledge or accounting principles or metrics do decision makers use to make high value decisions. So we're not going to try to make you an accountant. We're just going to teach you some of the things that as leaders, as business leaders, that we use in order to be able to make very well-informed decisions that maximize value for our organization. So that's what that course is about. Let me describe these workshops and how this will work in the context of the leadership course. In the leadership course that you take from the Gies College of Business, you're going to learn a lot of different things, and you're going to learn some pretty fundamental principles that we're going to build on in this workshop and also in the pre-work that John mentioned. For example, one of the things you're going to learn about is all the different roles that a leader plays. As leaders and as professionals, we don't play just one role. In a particular day, you may play a dozen roles, depending on the situation. Some of them are within an organization, some external to an organization. So why is that important? What are the different roles that we play, and how do the way that we apply our skills differ? The second thing we're going to talk about is the importance of relationships. As John said, there aren't many problems that you solve by yourself. I'd kind of take that one step further. I don't think there's any problem that you can solve by yourself that's really of any value. The things that are really valuable are those that require a lot of collaboration, a lot of relationship building, and a lot of networking, both within an organization and external to an organization. So that's another principle we're going to talk about. And the last one is really the clarity of purpose. If you're trying to solve a problem, you need to know why you're doing it. And if you're in an organization, you need to know why that organization exists. So those are things you're going to learn in the leadership course from the Gies College of Business. So now what are we going to do at this point? So we're going to take this and we're going to look at it in the context of the industries and businesses that we serve. And we're going to see, how do they do it? How do these organizations and how do these leaders apply these principles in a way that adds value for their organization? So here's how this course is going to work. First of all, you're going to, as part of the independent study that John mentioned, you're going to study some recent events or case studies. We're going to take a look at a few in terms of how were those applied? How did those leaders apply those things that I just talked about in order to lead their teams and their organizations to achieve some pretty valuable results? In doing this, we're going to want you to think back to the coursework that you've just completed and try to identify some insights for the coursework. How was that applied? And begin to think about, how would you do this? What does this mean to you in your career? And how might you, as you progress forward as a professional and a leader, how might you do these very similar things? The next part is where we actually have the workshop itself. It's going to be a 2-day workshop, and we strongly encourage you to attend in person. I think you'll get much more value out of it, but we recognize that may not be possible for everyone. In this, we're going to engage some industry experts and some alumni to tell their story. In other words, how did they do it? What was important to them? How did they apply some of these things? And what were their keys to success? Now, in this workshop, you'll be able to engage with them and ask them a lot of questions and talk to them and see, how does this relate to you and your career? And maybe you can see yourself in some of these stories and say, you know what, I can do that. I see how they did that. That makes sense. I can do that in my own career, or maybe even the job that I've currently got, or the team that I'm working at as a particular problem at school or whatever. So we'll engage some industry experts. We're going to talk about some of the case studies and get their story and see if we can understand it. Then also during the workshop, you're going to talk with your classmates or with your peers. You're going to begin to reflect on, what are the key messages? What are you hearing? What are you hearing that's important? And what am I hearing? And here's what I think that means for me and how I might apply that. You can learn an awful lot from each other. That's what collaboration is all about. Sharing and then beginning to learn from one another. And then at the end of the workshop, we're going to ask you to start taking some of these reflections or some of the things that you've thought about. What does this mean for me? And begin to put it down on paper. In other words, begin to draft a personal plan of how you're going to apply what you've learned to your own career. to your own leadership development or development as a professional and as a leader. And then after the workshop, we're going to ask you to basically write that down and to begin to develop your own career plan and next steps. Now, of course, this changes all the time, right? I mean, it's a first pass, but it's something that you're going to work on and begin to think about and begin to update this and think about it continuously as you go through your career development and your growth as a professional. So as you can see in the workshop, that's our objective. What does it mean to us? How do they do it? How am I going to apply it to my own personal situation in my own personal career growth and career objectives? So that's the integrate part. So you can see it's taking what you learn and see how do you actually apply it to, or how have others actually applied this and what does it mean to me? So Dan, if you go to the next slide, let me talk a little bit about the capstone. So the capstone is kind of what I like to refer in this part of the program is this is kind of the application step. So you're going to hear how others have done it. And now I kind of like to think about it's your turn. It's your turn to do it. It's your turn to take the skills you've learned and apply them to a real industry problem and try to deliver some very tangible value to an organization. Now, there's a couple of different options I'm going to describe to you about how you can accomplish this capstone, be it a sponsored project or something through an internship or maybe within the company that you're currently working for if you're taking this program part-time. No matter what option that you choose or how you apply this, this is a very collaborative effort with an organization. So this isn't something you're going to work on your own. You're going to have to collaborate with the organization, with their individuals, with some of their team members to develop the solution. And in doing that, there are several deliverables that you're going to have to work. First of all, you're going to have to develop a very detailed project scope and execution plan. This is very important. You have to have a plan in terms of how and how are you going to engage others in this particular solution. A clearly defined value proposition goes back to the clarity of purpose that I talked about. Why are you doing this? What value is this going to add? And how does this impact the overall organization? Third would be an engagement with multiple parties. In other words, kind of a networking plan. Who are my team members? What are they going to do? Who else do we need to talk with outside the team? Maybe outside the organization. What are some of the different parties we're going to need to engage in order to get all the input that we need in order to deliver a valuable solution? And then finally, come up with a recommendation. What's your solution? How much value does it add? How do you implement it? And what's the final outcome? Now, as I mentioned, a couple different options for doing this. One is what we call a capstone project. And this would be where you do a project for a sponsoring company. And as John said, we'll help you line up some of these. We'll arrange some of these. But again, I think it's really important when you think about this, it's not something that you're working on your own and just sending a report to a company. You're going to be collaborating with them on a regular basis in terms of as you develop the solution and gather data. The other option is what we call practicum. And there's two ways you can do a practicum. One option is during the program is to take a semester or a summer and do an internship for a company and develop a capstone project or around work that you're doing for your particular company during the internship. Another way is if you're working full-time and you're taking this part-time, you can do a practicum with your company that you're working for. Come up with a project that you can then demonstrate these skills, through this particular project with your company. So those are there's kind of three options in my mind, capstone, but then two different ways to do the practicum. But again, the real key to this is the collaboration to solve an important problem and deliver tangible value and demonstrate that you indeed can do this. You'll have heard in previous parts of the course some of the skills, how others have done it, and now this is how you can demonstrate that, yes, I can take the skills I've learned and deliver a high-value solution. So that's the apply part of the program. Let's talk a little bit about the companies that recruit from Illinois, recruit our graduates, and sort of the feedback that we got from them. And what do they think about this particular program? As you can see, the companies that hire our graduates are from all different sectors, from energy to pharmaceuticals, consumer products, food and beverage, high tech, basically across the board. What we're going to teach you are skills that are transferable or applicable to all different kinds of industries, not just one. And they're fundamental to any professional or the career growth of any chemical engineering leader. So another important thing about these companies is I personally talked to many of them on this list. I asked them a very open-ended question. I said, what's important to you? What skills do you want in the people that come to you? And they said, everyone that comes to us has got is technically very competent, but where it's the mixture of technical, business, and leadership is what we really are looking for. And that is why, as John said, we kind of built this program around those skills. Now, what does it mean for you? Well, these are the types of skills that can lead you to higher levels of responsibility. I think these are the types of skills that can really jumpstart your career, can really begin to get you higher levels of responsibility, even not necessarily managerial, but also just within the technical realm, technical leadership, higher level, more complicated problems. I would expect if from a starting salary standpoint that you would see an increase, pretty significant increase based on surveys that we've done from a BS to an MS degree. But let me go back for just a second before we show this other slide. But what I want you to focus on is it's not necessarily the starting salary. It's really the advancement and the skills you learn that throughout your career are really going to give you a jump start. And it's that growth potential is what you're really after here, which is what I think differentiates this program from others. Of course, you'll get a little higher salary to start, but it's really the advancement, I think, is where you're going to really reap the benefit of this program. So go to the next slide. You'll see it's the same one, but we put numbers on this one. Why did we have it second? Because I know from experience, if I showed you this one with numbers at the bottom, you wouldn't have heard a word I said. So basically, we want to just give you an idea of what might you expect, and maybe somewhere on the order of about 10,000 a year difference between a master's. Some companies see this as just as another year to 2 years of experience. So there would be an increase, but don't lock in on that number. Think about the skills that you're going to learn that are really going to advance and reap you benefit across your career. Okay, I'm going to give this back to
All right, great. You have heard from John and James, and they have provided you the core basic that you need to know about this program. So on top of this MEng program, and developed by our department in conjunction with the College of Engineering, there's also additional benefit of this program. That is, we already have the entrepreneur innovation concentration that in contact with us. So in a nutshell, they want to be affiliated with this program. So what that means is that if you are registered for the MEng program, i.e. the ChBE MEng program, you can also automatically register for second concentration if you're interested, that is. And this is the optional that is called Entrepreneurship and Innovation. Clearly, it's focused more on the managerial side of the professional program. So they offer a lot of courses related to let's say the business, management, and team building components. For example, I list a few courses here taught by different professors or instructors, and they talk about the engineering entrepreneurship, technology entrepreneurship, and innovation strategy. And they also have accounting and the equivalent of what Jim Morris mentioned it earlier on the technical aspect in terms of from the industry perspective. So there are a few kind of courses work offered by the center, by other college of engineering program that you can tap into their courses. So on that note, I'm probably gonna take a short break and let you to ask questions. So this is the perfect time for you to collect a breath and then ask us some of the urgent questions before we continue our second part, and hopefully for the next probably 15 minutes. So if you have any question for the next 5-10 minutes, let's do the question section for now.
Yeah, so currently we have one questions in the chat. So if we are missing the prerequisite ChBE courses from our bachelor degrees, we will need to attend this in classes in person on campus to enroll to this program, correct?
I can address that if you like.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Basically, I think that we've said if you're admitted to the program, you could actually enroll in the program without having completed all of the prerequisite courses. So for example, especially if you're just missing one or two, you could be taking, you could be taking one of the business admin courses. You could be taking the applied math course at the same time you were maybe taking the reaction engineering course. We have put together a plan where you could, if you were going to come in person full time, if you meet the standards for admission, suppose you're a chemist and you need to take all 3 courses, undergraduate courses, you could absolutely start and be admitted to the M.Eng program. And during your first year, you could be taking those 3 courses in person. In the fall semester, you might take the fluid mechanics, you might take the momentum, heat, and mass course. And then in the spring semester, you could take the separations and reaction engineering. You could intersperse that with, say, taking applied math in the fall and taking a business accounting course or whatever, or leadership course in the fall and other courses. So there is a lot of flexibility. You can absolutely take, it's going to add the effectively, close to an extra full semester. Those 3 courses is a fair amount of work if you've not had chemical engineering before. But you can take them while you're enrolled in the program, taking other courses. The other option I will mention is people are planning not so much for this fall, but to be admitted later than this fall. You're more than welcome to get a head start on those undergraduate courses by looking at whether you can take them at a university currently in your current city. Unfortunately, the University of Illinois, at our campus, we do not yet have available online versions of those 3 undergraduate courses. I'd love to be able to tell you, oh, just start taking them online. But at the University of Illinois, we do not have those 3 courses online yet. They are taught every single semester in person. So we can definitely work them in person. That would be something which is quite reasonable to do. Some of our own PhD students take those courses. They come in, if there's a PhD student who is an undergraduate chemist or bioengineer, he or she might be taking some of those courses while they're doing their other graduate work in our PhD program. Alternatively, you might find, and I haven't done enough research on this, there may be online offerings of those undergraduate courses that you could find at another university, and you could check with us, and those could be acceptable as well. As long as it's a accredited mainstream chemical engineering bachelor's degree program, almost every mainstream chemical engineering program offers some equivalent of those 3 courses.
Yeah, I probably can add one word to John just said. So the idea to have undergrad level courses is to make you be aware that the grad level courses do need to have the undergrad level fundamentals. So for that reason, that we need you to make up those differences. So.
Okay, so one more question, just bump up. I believe the CS Online Masters in the UIUC is guaranteed admission for all UIUC CS undergraduate students above 3-point GPA. Does this also apply for the Master in ChBE for UIUC ChBE undergraduate students?
I'll be happy to handle that.
Could you make a comment on that?
Okay.
Yeah, so you are going to hear the portion regarding the admission at the later session, but I can say yes, the 3.0 overall GPA is the minimum requirement for our program as well.
And if I may follow up, by the way, I'm in charge of reviewing all undergraduate records at the University of Illinois, so I can tell you 3.0 is the minimum requirement. However, suppose we have a student who got straight C's in every chemical engineering course and boosted their GPA by taking lots of electives and other courses to get up to a 3.0. We certainly won't rule that person. Well, we cannot guarantee based on overall GPA. Certainly if you have a 3.0 GPA in all of your core chemical engineering classes, I'd say the odds are very high that you would fall close to our admission standards. But at this point, the short answer is no, it is not automatic. We choose to review each student on an individual basis. And we do look at it holistically. If a student has been working on very innovative internship, either for companies or with professors or student activities, that may be things which impress us to say, boy, this student would really benefit and be good at our MEng program.
Lastly, I just want to make one additional comment. That is, currently we have more applicants than we can, let's say, admit if we admit all the students above 3.0 GPA. So that's another reason. Logistically, we want to have our first cohort to be strong, and we want to be responsible for, let's say, position them, hopefully in a good internship position, for instance, or find out the suitable capstone project and so on and so forth. So we still have this logistic reason not to admit everyone that meet the 3.0, as we have quite a few of applicants definitely above the 3.0 GPA at the moment. So it's very different from computer science that is involved in the true internship, that involved in the a certain aspect, doing hands-on experiments, so on and so forth, their commitment involved. All right. So I think if there are no more urgent questions, we can continue for a second half. And if there are additional questions towards the end, feel free to ask questions once again then. Okay, go ahead.
Hong is going to turn it over to me for the next section. But before I talk about our faculty, let me briefly add, both on our website and at the end of this presentation, you're going to see an email address on the last slide. If you have any questions, please just send them, and they don't get addressed in this particular meeting. We will make sure you get very much an individual response. Any email that you send to the email address will be directly received by Dan, who you see at the top of our screen, and Dan will make sure that either she can answer it or she will direct it to whichever one of the rest of us needs to address your question. So just because we might not have time to handle all questions in this webinar tonight, don't let that stop you. We will guarantee you a nice individualized response to your question if at the end you send an email to the address on the screen that will be on screen and for Dan. So with that, then let me just introduce you to some of the faculty who may be teaching some of these courses we're talking about. On the left side is a picture of myself. I currently teach the online versions of the Applied Math course and the Graduate Transport course. These are all pre-recorded lectures, which I post, and the students can watch them anytime they like. I can absolutely tell you that they come in different speeds and different lengths, and I often invite students to hit the pause button and go get a cup of coffee in order to review the rest of the lecture. Second, right under me is Dr. Baron Peters. Baron is an expert in a variety of chemical reaction engineering and catalysis and phase change. Baron teaches our ChBE 551 Graduate Reaction Engineering course. He is also providing online lectures, and there will be for both of us, there are online Zoom meetings, synchronous Zoom meetings, where you can live talk to a professor or an instructor or a TA. This year it's been talking to a professor and get help on the course. So those are the three online courses are taught by the two of us on the left side. Some of the electives that we offer very frequently are taught by our other chemical engineering faculty, and just the quick Xiao Su, Mary Kraft, the distinguished Hong Yang, present tonight, Deborah Leckban, Chris Rao, who's now our department head, Weimin Zhao, Brendan Harley, Charles Singh, and June Kong, also here tonight. Those people all teach in-person versions of the electives. So if you're on campus and you're taking courses in person, you will currently see offerings from almost all of those people within the time that you'd be taking the degree. In addition, if you're doing it completely online, there is a selection of perhaps I think we came up with 10 or 20 most popular electives, which are offered online across the campus. And it was just too many faculty to show the pictures and whatever. But there are definitely very experienced professors at the University of Illinois who are offering these online only courses. So if you do take it online only, but we can't focus on them tonight. But in any case, if you're in person, you would absolutely see chemical electives every semester. You'd see, about 3 or 4 different choices in chemical engineering, plus dozens and dozens of courses across campus. But in terms of the core, you would basically see the pre-recorded lectures by myself or Baron Peters. So, thank you.
Okay.
Jim, I think you're up.
Yes, in terms of the courses, the professional development and the business courses, two of the professors for the leadership course are shown on this slide, Carrie Keating and Elizabeth Luckman. They have a lot of experience in the leadership area, provide a lot of very good information in terms of leadership and some of the really practical aspects of leadership in today's world, and what does it mean and how to apply it. Now, remember, they're going to talk about it from a very, very broad perspective and a lot of different industries and a lot of different settings. And then what my role will be to bring that back and apply it to the types of things that we do. So I personally have audited their courses, and they're very, very good, and a lot of really good information that we can bring back and think about how do we as chemical engineers apply this. And that's what we'll do in the workshop and in the capstone course. Next slide, please. So bottom line, we prepare people to exceed at the University of Illinois and within our department. And these are pictures of just a few of our very distinguished alumni. I think the point of this slide is the range of industries and companies that they serve, and also the different roles. We have senior executives to entrepreneurs that have founded their own organizations to consultants, and a very wide range. Now, a few of these folks I personally talked to when we were designing the course and asked them, what does it take? How did you get so successful? What's your key? And some of the skills that they told me are the things that we've incorporated in the course. Also, hopefully, we're encourage a few of these to attend the workshop. Some of them have really fascinating stories that you could really connect to. So our objective is someday to have your photo on this page. And by the skills that we're going to teach you, I think we can set you on that track. So I think over to June.
All right. So I'm going to briefly tell you how we are going to review the application package and make a decision, and how actually soon you have to submit the applications. So as you can see in the slide, you may wonder who is qualified for the application to our program. So basically the people who have a BS degree in chemical engineering or any relevant disciplines, including chemistry, material science, bioengineering, and also even mechanical engineering, the people can consider applying to our program. However, actually, as you heard from John's talk in the previous slide, the people who have the background, not the chemical engineering, we strongly encourage them to take the 3 technical course we showed in a previous slide as well. And also partly partly as the answer to the previous question, and you already heard that, we kind of want the people apply actually with the minimum the overall GPA of the 3.0. And also John actually mentioned about how we are going to also dissect the individual the score, especially related to the chemical engineering course as well. And also in case the people who are outside the US, we need the English proficiency test score. So you can take the TOEFL or any actually equivalent test and then include those scores in the application package. Next, please. So these are the documents you need to make sure to submit for the applications. So it should include the undergraduate transcript and the test score, especially for the international students. It should be the TOEFL or the equivalent exam score. And also we want to see the resume or CV, including all their previous experience together with the educational background. And also we need to see the academic statement of the purpose, which is rationalize why actually you are interested in our program, and also what actually is you expect to achieve from our actual program as well. And also we need 3 reference letters. So overall, actually, what you have to make sure is that even after you submit all your documents, you have to check that whether your the referee finished the submitting the letters, because that we cannot make a final decision until we collect all 3 reference letters. Next, please. So this one shows that how we are going to review the application package. So as you heard from the John and also others, basically we are going to review the application documents holistically. So not only for the GPA, we are going to see the people's prior experience in the lab or in the industry, and also what is their enthusiasm and passion for the next careers. So these are the several factors we are going to consider during the review process. And then basically we are going to review this application on a rolling basis. So we strongly encourage you to apply our program before June 1st deadline. And we are going to basically review the all documents, especially for the including all 3 reference letters. And then you are going to hear the decision throughout the email. So overall, as you can see here, our priority deadline was the February 15th. It's not meaning that the deadline actually, the application was closed. Still, you can apply to our program. So in case of the international students, like the deadline is going to be May 1st. And for the domestic people, the June 1st is going to be the deadline for the semester applications. So now John is going to introduce the campus town.
John, you can unmute yourself. John, can I unmute yourself, please?
I thought I was in the bar and you people couldn't hear me over the noise of people talking in the bar.
Nope.
I
Go
will
ahead.
try to make it brief but not silent. University of Illinois in Urbana Champaign is a great college town. It's not a tiny town. It's a town of, I don't know, about 130,000 people. There's sort of 40-ish thousand students here. Great work-life balance is the main thing. Is people find that they work hard here. Our grad students work hard, our undergraduates work hard, but they also play hard. There's lots of time to go out and enjoy yourself, whether you're doing intramural teams, whether there's a very active music scene here, like if you want to play gigs, you want to get in a small band or whatever, there's a very active music scene because we have a giant music school. Good restaurants, nice bars to interact with. We made the Elite Eight this year. If you're thinking about Illinois versus Purdue, I have to admit, Purdue made it to the championship game, but they lost. We made it to the Elite Eight in the NCAA. And so it's a lot of fun, the sports, a lot of great athletic facilities. I don't know how many swimming pools there are around campus. I think it's like 5 or so. There's a hockey rink for ice skating, which is also available. Ice skating, tons of racquetball courts, tennis courts, basketball courts, volleyball courts, squash, tennis, a huge number of different athletic things. So if you're into sports at all as a participant, it's a great place to come. Lots of intramural leagues, other things like there's canoeing and camping and fishing at places within a couple hours drive. There's a rock climbing clinic at one of the stores. So it's a great place to do lots of very interesting outdoor things. You'll find that when you come to the University of Illinois and you talk to other students, the people who are here really want to be here. It's not like, oh, I wanted to go to this place, this place, this place, so I couldn't get in. I had to come here. No, everybody, when you go around campus, you find the students who are at the University of Illinois are delighted they're here, and that's reflected in how successful our alumni are. We wouldn't have all those successful alumni if it wasn't a great work-life balance. We point out other cities. We are 2 hours from Chicago, 2 hours from Indianapolis. So there's certainly activities that you can do there. And it's not at all a bad drive, or there's actually some band services and stuff like that. So I will say that the university administration was extremely disappointed. I believe it was 4 or 5 years ago when the University of Illinois was rated in one of the national magazines as the #1 party school in the country. The administrators did not want to hear this, We want to know that it's a great place to have good work-life balance. We don't want to be the #1 party school in the country. We want to be the #1 technical school with good party opportunities. I'll leave it at that.
All right, great. Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone. So with that, we finished the bulk part of the webinar. So I leave the next few minutes for you to ask any questions. Feel free, if you can, raise your hands. I'll just ask question directly. Otherwise, type into the Q&A or chat.
Or
Yeah,
don't forget to mention that
Yes.
email address. Oh, Dan was going to mention that email address
Yep.
you see at the bottom.
It's right there.
ChBE.MEng. That goes directly to Dan, and she will guarantee, she keeps a whip available to make sure that we give her good answers, and she will guarantee you get a good answer.
Yeah, I can guarantee as a CS guarantee all the students above the 3 points GPA can get the MS online program. Okay, so we have 2 questions in the chat. Oh, 3. Yeah, the first one is for admission, is the GRE required, or is there any standardized testing required?
So can
Joel,
I
do you want
answer
to
the question?
mention?
Yeah. So we are not requiring the GRE, but in case you think that maybe you get the good GRE score and then show your academic pretty excellence compared with the a little kind of moderate your GPA, then definitely you can take the GRE and then you submit your score. So we can also consider that as one of the factors in the holistic review.
Okay, next
Okay.
question.
Yeah, next one is the website say that this program will span over 3 to 4 semesters, meaning students can choose to spread their coursework over 4 semesters or extend the program by completing the second concentration in MEng.
That was our standard when we started. We thought most people would be interested in doing it in 3 or 4 semesters. I will say that to do it in 3 semesters, that involves extremely hard work in the summer of the 3rd semester. And so we think that a certain percentage of people, even if they're here on campus full time, will want to extend it fall, spring, summer, and then extra fall. So that's where we got the 4 semester. As we've talked to our current students who are in the program, we found out, especially for part-time students who are working full-time, they may want to spread it out over more than 4 semesters. We've developed programs for as many as 6 semesters. Because basically if you've been working in an industry and you've been away from classes for a while, we've seen some students say, can I just take one course, maybe my first semester or 2, just to get back into it and to see how I adjust my work schedule? Yes, and the short answer is yes, you can be flexible like that. In that case, you would take perhaps 5 or 6 semesters. We're looking for whatever it is most flexible to guarantee that the students with high commitments at their full-time jobs will still have a successful degree and complete the degree program. So let's say 3 is pretty much the minimum. 3 to 4 would be very common. And if you need to stretch it out to 5 or 6 semesters because you're working full-time, absolutely, that's a possibility.
Sure. Okay, good. So the third question is, I'm going to be visiting the campus this weekend. Oh, welcome. So I am wondering what hall I would take the majority of my classes in, and what other places I should make sure I see.
I'll give it a first shot and I'll let others then chip in. First, you should make sure you visit the main quadrangle. That main quadrangle is the center of campus life. It's a beautiful place to study. You should also visit the Beckman Quad, the engineering quad. We, in chemical engineering, are right off the main quadrangle in Roger Adams' lab. Most of the electives that you would take from chemical engineering faculty would tend to be taught in about 2 or 3 different buildings, either in Roger Adams' lab, or right across the street in Noise Laboratory, which is the center of the chemistry building, but also has a number of classrooms. Or just across the quad is Lincoln Hall, is a major classroom building. And those would be the one, or you can head north a little bit to some of the engineering departments. But the short answer is this is a fully cross-disciplinary campus. You could be taking classes all over the campus. But if you really want to see what's the heart of the university, make sure you visit the main quad and Roger Adams' lab, which is right off. Hong, anything else I should say?
Oh yeah, you covered it. Basically, the course could be in any hall nearby. And so, for example, I'm teaching at engineering hall across the Illini Union, right at the center of the campus. So slightly beyond what John just mentioned in terms of periphery areas.
And let me add one more thing.
Center of the fall.
We have the Illini Union is a great building at the head of the quad, has cafeterias, has Starbucks, has bakeries, ice cream shops, and has a huge central study area. The reason I mention that is you may find you're going to a couple of in-person classes in the morning, then you can go sit in the Illini Union with your laptop and watch some of the pre-recorded lectures for our 3 core online courses. And so you might say, okay, I took the 2 in-person courses this morning. Now I'm going to sit down right in the Illini Union. I've got Starbucks there. I've got an ice cream cone. I've got pastries. I've got candy. I've got legitimate food. And you can sit there with all sorts of nourishment and enjoy those online lectures.
There are also 2 or 3 places at the Illini Union. You can play guitar. There's also piano. Certain places is open for everybody
There's
to play.
also a pool room with
Sometimes
pool
you can just hear the music, student playing it. And during the lunch hour, it's particularly interesting. So you see students perform at the stage just spontaneously, and the other people just treat it as a norm and eating their lunch and doing their normal things. So that's a very lovely place. I like that place.
Indeed.
There's also one more question in the chat. And Dan,
Yeah.
could you bring that
Yes,
question as
yes.
well?
Yeah. So the last question is that this program only accept admissions for fall, or is there an admission cycle for spring as well?
Hong or June?
Yeah, we currently do both spring and the fall admission. Yes, we did that last fall and last spring as well.
Yeah. So we answer all the questions. If anyone have more questions or need more detailed information like the name of the building, the hall, just email me. I can provide all information you need to you. Yeah.
All right, let me close out by thanks everyone taking the time to listen to the webinars, and thanks all my colleagues and showing up tonight. So thank you. Hopefully you can apply. I'll see you in the fall. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.